guys, Scripted here with another video, and this is an interesting article because there's this feeling from a lot of people that Star Wars kind of had this big gap, that like its popularity was not there from, I don't know, in the 80s to the 2000s, and they kind of push this idea that the entirety of the popularity of Star Wars during that period, that what was popular about it, stemmed from the expanded universe. And I would agree that the expanded universe contributed in a large way to the popularity of Star Wars during that period. However, there's something else that people seem to just forget, and I don't know if I've lost my mind, but this is what is being said right now. Like many aging Star Wars fans, I spend a fair amount of time trying to figure out where things went wrong and what Disney could do to fix the franchise they broke. Okay, whatever. Gather round, younglings. It's time for a history lesson. After Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, the Star Wars franchise basically died. Sure, we had a couple of goofy cartoons and some embarrassing Ewok movies, but the franchise dwindled, toy sales plunged, actors moved on, and even George Lucas started looking ahead to new challenges as his sci-fi space opera settled firmly into the realm of nostalgic pop culture ephemera? What are you talking about? Dude! And I don't want to pick on this guy, but like, Chris, what are you talking about? This is insanity. Oh, man. And this is the problem, is just, what are you talking about? And then he says this is why the expanded universe was so popular. Okay, but you're forgetting that in 1997, they re-released Star Wars, the special editions. Hello! And I'm not even here to tell you whether or not you should approve or disapprove or like the special editions. I know a lot of people have some trepidations with the special editions, and I do as well. There's certain things about them I really like, and there's certain things that I don't. And that's okay, but the idea that Star Wars is kind of just reliant on the expanded universe, again, it had a huge impact, but the idea that it held the brand up. I mean, okay, so first of all, let's look at how much money those movies made in 1997. Okay, so when you look at A New Hope or the original Star Wars or whatever you want to call it, when you look at that and you look at the numbers, there's a chunk of the 3.7 odd billion that it made adjusted for inflation that is the special editions. There's a chunk of that. And so when you look at the special editions, they made almost $1 billion if you adjust for inflation. So they made 475 million, 72 million, whatever, in 97. So they almost made a bill re-releasing movies with some tweaks and a few deleted scenes and blah, 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 blah. And the other thing that's super crazy is like the special editions made almost $1 billion and they cost George Lucas $11 million. Dude, that's crazy. Like, think of how crazy that is. Think of the Disney budgets, all these shows, everything they've done, and then think George spent $11 million. And okay, so let's say it's 20 million with inflation, and it made almost $1 billion. That's like Joker levels crazy. Bruh. You guys, this idea that this brand was dead until Disney bought it is so ridiculous. Okay, then factor in, when they released the special editions, they also released the Power of the Force toy line, which had like every character. I have some of those unopened because they're awesome. And it was nuts. Like, you went into the toy store and it was like aisles of Star Wars toys. This idea that the expanded universe is what held up the brand for decades. Like, no, dude. No. It contributed. It was one of the things that contributed, but it definitely was not like the mainstream. When Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire came out in 1991, it provided canonical information about characters that fans hadn't seen on screen for the better part of a decade. Accordingly, fans quickly dubbed Zahn's books as the sequel trilogy they had been waiting for. One leaps and bounds better, in fact, than the one we got. Yeah, and I mean, you're right. And the question is would it have been possible? And this is my question for a lot of the EU really like hardcore fans. Like, I'm literally asking you. Would it have been possible in your mind, the way you feel about the Zahn trilogy and whatnot, for the sequels, forget about Disney, let's pretend they're being made by somebody who gives a crap and they're good, okay? In your mind, would it have been possible for the sequels to have been good enough to be better than Heir to the Empire? Or is that just an impossibility? It's like, no, Heir to the Empire is just too amazing. I can't fathom something better. Okay, that's fine. But that's the question. Ultimately, that trilogy, as good as it is, whatever you feel about it, isn't what made Lucasfilm continue to be relevant. And Star Wars continued to be relevant. It was the special editions. It was the constant toy lines. It was a lot of products, some of which I make fun of. Some of them are dumb. I don't need an R2-D2 toaster. Like, guys. Ironically, the popularity of the Star Wars expanded universe helped do what many thought impossible: bring this franchise back to the big screen. Amid a resurgent era of toys, games, comics, and books, Lucas expanded his empire with the prequel trilogy of movies that were critical failures, but critical disapproval didn't matter because Star Wars was back and bigger than ever, which ultimately culminated in Lucas selling... Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The question is now is it even relevant now? Is it relevant anymore? I don't know. Disney has gotten less bang for its buck thanks to negative reactions to both the sequel trilogy and to many of its high-profile Disney Plus shows like The Book of Boba Fett and The Acolyte. The brand is worse off than it has been since the late 80s, leaving fans and execs alike to wonder how to restore the franchise to its former glory, and the solution is as simple as it is unthinkable. Disney needs to stop releasing Star Wars movies and TV shows for at least a half a decade. Well, it's like, how are they going to do that now? It's too late. It's too late. Like, you can't. What are they supposed to do? What are they going to do? They have to release something. They spent so much money on it. They made no money on it. I don't even think they've gotten their money back on the $4 billion, quite frankly, when you factor in everything, all the expenses and stuff. Kathleen Kennedy has not run a very efficient machine over there. It's been pretty much all over the place. So I don't know how you can just stop. They can't now. They can't. And the reality of it is they didn't need to. If they were putting out quality, if they respected what came before them and the lore and everything else, then they'd be fine. And I will say, as somebody who's not a huge fan of the EU, and I don't know a ton about it, but what I do know is there's certain things that are good. And the reality of it is, if they had just done that, it definitely would have been better than what Disney put out. That's not to say I'm like soiling myself with glee over the EU if it was put on screen, but my goodness, compared to what we got, it's amazing. And it is pretty good in a lot of ways, but there's some stupid stuff too. Palpatine coming back was dumb. Whether it was done in the EU or not, it's dumb. And I know they explained it better and all that stuff, but it was still dumb. And I'm with George. I don't like Luke getting married. I think that's a mistake as well. As much as Mara Jade's a pretty cool character, it's not what he would have done, and I wouldn't have done that. I propose that Disney stop releasing Star Wars movies and TV shows for a minimum of 5 years while still allowing books, comics, and video games to advance. No, but they don't, though. The comics, I've done a bunch of videos about those Kylo Ren things, the Legacy of Vader comics. They're horrible. If you hear any weird noises, because I'm rubbing my forehead reading this. It's like, dude, they're crappy. They're stupid. They don't explain anything, and they just cause more problems. They just cause more problems. And I had an argument, not that long ago. Somebody was like, oh, well, Kylo Ren didn't destroy the temple. It was Luke's academy. It was Snoke that did it. And then you read the comic, you read Wikipedia, you read all the, like, StarWars.com, all the literature, and you're like, bro, he literally did. He didn't mean to, but he did. He did it. So, no, the comics just cause problems. The video games are video games. I'm not going to get excited. Like, they overpower guys, and they make the Force kind of silly. As long as you don't do that in the movies. Oh, wait, Sabine got stabbed and still lived. Anyway. Disney can gauge fan response to things like Star Wars novels to get a better idea of what fans want to see from their sci-fi. Yeah. Again, to a degree. Like, not all of us love everything that happened in the novels. Some of us don't love everything. We love some things. Everybody's different. But I do think that Disney could have accomplished something that would have been, I believe, acceptable to all fans of Star Wars. I do believe that. And I believe that what I wrote for the sequels, I believe it accomplishes that. I do. Because it's got everything in there in the right way. Disney will never do this because, God forbid, stop chasing a huge payday. He's talking about the don't do anything for 5 years, even temporarily. That's the problem, of course. The House of Mouse is so focused on making endless profits. Yeah, but they paid $4 billion for it. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to buy it and just sit? $4 billion? You're going to just buy it and sit? No, of course they're going to do stuff. That's what they do. That's the whole point. They're a publicly traded company. And if we get another high profile failure or two, Disney may kill their golden goose even more brutally than Anakin killed the younglings. It's dead, bro. It's been dead. The goose was hit in the head with a golf ball, and he's in the middle of the golf course. Dead. Lying there in the fairway. He's dead, bro. If Disney halts production of Star Wars, it could increase public demand while ushering in a new expanded universe of literature. No, dude, they can't now. This is what we've all been saying for how long? They have to decanonize everything they've done. And they're not going to do that. They're never going to do that. But that's the only way. Like, no. Okay, so you're going to have a 5-year hiatus, and then you're going to come back with EU stuff on top of the Disney trash? You can't, dude. You just can't. And I understand, like, this person's, like, grasping because they really want Star Wars to not suck. But they can't, bro. The only way is to completely decanonize everything they've done. They literally have to stand up and admit that they completely botched all of it. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to see, though? If, like, KK actually did that, if she stood up and literally said, I suck, I'm quitting, somebody else take over, and by the way, none of this stuff matters anymore. And I mean, it doesn't really matter to everybody. Everybody has their own canon, and they can think what they want and stuff, but it's like, even if you view Disney as dog poo, which it is, in terms of Star Wars especially, you could at least say, it'd be nice if they just came out and said this is stupid. Even if you're like, the EU is my sequels or whatever, right? Like, it would still be nice to see the admission of the screw up. Kind of like what happened with Sonic, although on a extremely bigger level. But it would be pretty sweet to see these people admit it. We can only hope that Force Ghost of the franchise will be more entertaining in death than it ever was in life. Guys, they really bucked. They screwed it up. I don't think there's, unless they stand up and admit that it's a screw up and they got to restart it all, there's no possible way. Maybe somebody buys it and does that and says, we don't believe anything Disney did matters or is part of canon. And again, whether you see it that way or not, it still would be nice to see them just admit that it's doggy doo. Anyways, guys, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, also helps the channel. Feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.